Amazon is planning to launch a new discount store in a bid to compete with Temu and SHEIN. According to CNBC, Amazon plans to launch a new section on its site dedicated to low-priced fashion and lifestyle items that will allow Chinese sellers to ship directly to U.S. consumers. Based on a presentation to Amazon sellers viewed by CNBC, Amazon's storefront will feature a range of unbranded items, many priced under $20. Amazon will ship the products directly from China to the US with the goal of delivering them to shoppers within 9 to 11 days, the presentation shows. Amazon said merchants would be able to test new items through small batch production, similar to the model SHEIN uses, which is referred to as on-demand manufacturing, i.e., that practice of producing a limited quantity of goods and manufacturing more as demand increases. It's unclear when Amazon intends to debut the storefront, but the presentation did note that it will start accepting products this fall. Chris, this is also the A&M put you on the spot question. A&M would like to know, is the impact of this action as big as the headline reads, given China-based sellers already represent something close to 50% of the top 10,000 sellers on Amazon in the US? Also, the source for that is Amazon's, quote, significant, end quote, reliance on Chinese sellers from Marketplace Pulse.
Okay, first of all, I got to give A&M credit for quoting their source of their reference material. That's awesome. That's talk about going above and beyond.
Right.
All right, first of all, I love this headline too, Ann. I agree with you. That's why I was so pleasantly surprised to see that you're big on this one too. And the question is great because I think it highlights that yes, the majority of Amazon's business comes from Amazon sellers now, but how they actually do that business is the nuance here.
Yep.
You know, Amazon, if you think about it, has pushed 2-day delivery since the cows come home for as long as we can remember, which generally necessitates warehousing in the United States. It's the only way you can deliver that product on that timeline. And what SHEIN and Temu have discovered is that people don't care about shipping speed, especially if it also means you can get cheaper, cooler product, right, Ann?
Yep.
So, and the other thing too that's important in this story, which really is just becoming known to me too, I didn't really realize this or understand this, but SHEIN and Temu are basically playing off tax loopholes that allow companies to avoid having to pay tariffs if goods enter the States as direct shipments to customers, which is really fascinating when you think about it. That's how
Oh,
they're able to do this. Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing that stops Amazon from taking advantage of that same tax hole loop. So the bigger question to me, though, is that any retailer, any apparel retailer, because the products have to be cheap, they have to be under a certain amount to avoid the tariffs. Any apparel retailer that's okay with a 9 to 11 day lead time, if the prices are better, and you know, for most of us, we'll wait for that shirt. And I know you'd wait for that shirt. You know,
Oh, yeah.
any retailer can do this, and so the implications of it are very staggering because it creates a whole new way to think about and do e-commerce. And it's a way that hopefully the retail industry will get on board. I doubt they will, but essentially you don't need to have US warehousing for your e-commerce businesses anymore because you can just get them shipped directly from China and keep your inventory low and keep reacting to the customer. And so there are a few companies out there already doing this. One is called Portless. I met them on Tuesday. They were blowing my mind as the guy I was talking to was telling me about what they do. So
Yeah.
I think ultimately this is big news when you think about how the retail landscape is changing, particularly from the e-commerce side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you did a great job, and that tax loophole that's a really interesting one, especially with an upcoming election and the back and forth about like the tariffs on products from China. I think that's fascinating. I think my angle here, Chris, is actually that I believe we still have an abundance of US consumers who also trust Amazon more than they do Temu and SHEIN. You still have a large body of the population who wants that good deal, who's willing to wait for it, but because they've used Amazon, they're familiar with Amazon fulfillment. It's the same reason that Buy with Prime was a thing that took off, putting it on other websites, because people recognize that symbol. And I think there's a lot of potential here too. Like, will Amazon offer free shipping on these items because you're a Prime member? Like, I don't know how they make all of this pencil, but are they able to kind of get some benefits that come along with the millions of Prime members that exist already in the US? Can they get scale in this where they're reducing the timeline down to from 11 days to 9 or even to 8 to 7? And then are they able to facilitate returns on these items too? I mean, I think that's the other thing. Like, SHEIN and Temu, you are not returning that product. And, it's pretty much once it gets here. And when you're ordering not from, I mean, I've ordered from these both companies several
Yeah,
times. Like
right.
if it's not what you thought, if it doesn't meet the picture,
Yeah.
which oftentimes you got one or two things in the bag that don't quite work out as planned, you're kind of SOL. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here if Amazon starts to use their scale that they have and the client base that they've already built.
Yeah, the point about returns is really good. The other point I thought about too, Ann, which I'm curious to get your take on, and then we'll move on to headline two, is you know essentially anyone can do this, but you do have to think about the front end interface of the Shein and Temu experiences too. They're very good with the gamification. They're very good
Hmm.
with getting people into products and convincing them to buy very quickly, which is something that Amazon has historically not been very good at,
Right.
particularly when you look at apparel. And it's something that's also more difficult for the average e-commerce retailer to get to do as well. But it shows you from a back end logistics standpoint that I think anyone can try to start doing this model as long as that tax loophole exists.
Right. Absolutely.